When it comes to college basketball futures, you can find them right now. BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas, by the way. Duke is now your favorite at plus 225. Florida, plus 350. H-Town, 5-1. Auburn is plus 525. Tennessee, 16-1. Bama, 18-1. Michigan State, 20-1, along with Texas Tech. Man, look at all these SEC teams. So if you had to place a bet right now, college basketball futures, I mean, if you want to go for some big money, Michigan, BYU, 66-1, 16 teams remaining. Where are you putting that hard-earned money in your bank account?
Well, who looks like the best team in the tournament thus far? Doesn't it look like Duke? They've been cakewalking their way, it feels like, to the Final Four since they started in the first round. So I think Duke at plus 225, because think about it. Whoever they play, they're going to be a favorite. So as long as, they make it to the national championship, I feel like that's a pretty good bet to make, even though the price is pretty damn short. As well as the other favorites, I think you can make a case for all of them. And doesn't it feel like the year of the chalk? We have seen this in previous years where it's not the Cinderellas that actually win it all. It is the big name schools with the big name head coaches. So I think that if you want to take one of these schools at a shorter price, I'm not going to talk you off of it. But if we are talking teams that maybe could make a run that are further down the list, Texas Tech at 20-1, they've played some of the best teams in college basketball pretty tightly. 20-1, the price on the Red Raiders there. And then maybe Alabama, like they're a team that offensively is really good. And some of this depends on, the matchups. So it stinks for Alabama that eventually they'll have to face Duke if they get past BYU. So their draw is a little tougher. But I don't know, on the other side of the bracket with Auburn, Michigan, Ole Miss, and Michigan State, I just don't trust the Big Ten that much. So maybe I'll be eating my words, but I do think it's an SEC team. I'm not sure if the magic continues for Ole Miss, though. I feel like Florida's a team that I have trouble using logic and reasoning to say, hey, Maryland's going to beat them. But, it is March Madness. And maybe we will regress back to the mean when it comes to a little bit of madness. Because so far, it's been pretty lacking in that category. What have we had? One buzzer beater. So maybe we'll see that in the next round. But for me, it's probably going to be the chalky teams.
Yeah, and hasn't that been what we've seen the entire tournament? This has been a very chalky tournament, like extremely chalky. And I know there's a lot of talk out there. Is it NIL? Is that ruining things? Because now athletes are immediately going to the better schools because they have better opportunities to make more money and pad those bank accounts. So it's made the tournament more top heavy. Or, maybe it's just a year where the favorites are winning. The one thing about the tournament I will say is that you never know what you're going to get from year to year. Like maybe it's NIL, or maybe this is just a year when the favorites win. Sometimes that does happen. Regardless, I would say, God, their trek is so tough, but Maryland is interesting to me at 33-1. The problem is they got to get past Florida, like you were talking about. And Florida, I think, could absolutely win it all. The odds tell you that. The second best favorite or second most favorite at plus 350. But the Terps, their starting five is so good. And now that they get a break, they can rest up. You talk about momentum. They certainly had that amazing game-winning shot to beat Colorado State we were talking about yesterday. So they have that momentum moving forward. But again, when you see a roadblock like the Gators, it's hard for me to want to put down money on the Terps. But 33-1 is enticing for a team that does have a ton of talent and some NBA talent.
Yeah, for sure. Always when you have those star players, that certainly helps. But Jenks, prices aside, who do you think wins it all? Like, is it Duke? It feels like it.
I'm sticking with Houston. I'm sticking with the Cougars because I got them at 6-1. But yes, Duke looks really good. It drives me crazy because I don't like Duke, but they are very good. I want to have a new segment on this show, and it's called "What's Your Deal?" And I'm going to bring in like Double D because he's a Duke supporter. And the question is, hey, what's your deal? Like, why do you like Duke? Because I can't stand Duke. But there's just no denying that if you look at the most dominant team so far in this tournament, even though they had an easy draw, and you look at what they've done throughout the season, that Duke looks as good as anybody. And wasn't the ACC tournament, wasn't that when we really learned how Duke was or how good they are without Cooper Flag? I mean, we knew it, but we didn't get to see it. it was, yeah, of course, Duke, they recruit some of the best players in the country. It's blue chip after blue chip after blue chip. Okay, the ACC isn't as strong as we've seen in recent years. Now the SEC is the best conference in the country. And then when Cooper Flag, I believe, scored 2 points total in the entire ACC tournament. And Duke just moved on like it was no big deal. Now, obviously, he's a huge boon to the lineup. There's no question. Arguably the best player in the country. But if you look at how Duke has just handled teams without sweating, it damn sure looks like the Blue Devils.
Yeah, because it's like they're already a complete team, and then you add a lottery pick to the mix. So it's just
Right.
That's what they have over the other teams, because there are several complete teams in college hoops this year. Houston looks like one of them, a top 10 offense and an absolutely suffocating defense that plays really physical, but they don't have the lottery pick that Duke has. So when you have those tough defenses, you need the cheat code. You need somebody who can go one-on-one and get you a basket any single time. But also Tyrese Proctor has been really good for Duke, and somebody that has a wealth of experience as well. Was he like second all-time leading scorer for the program? Or maybe I'm thinking of Carolina. I need to double check that. But point being, Tyrese Proctor's been there forever, and he's been big in the tournament. So even if Cooper Flag has an off night, they have other guys that can certainly carry the load. So Duke certainly looks like a step above the crowd, but I don't know how much I take away from the ACC tournament. Like, we've seen how bad the ACC is this year. So I think I'm taking more away from like their NCAA tournament games and absolutely smoking Baylor. Like, that's the only game we can look at. And maybe that's the sabotage factor for Duke, is that they really haven't been tested. And until you've been tested, it's really difficult to say this is the team that has the stones in the final 2 minutes if this game is close, because we've seen this before. When teams aren't tested, it's trickier.
No, that's a very good point. They look great against the Bears, but also there's a different level when you meet a team like a Florida, like a Houston. A team like that can really play lockdown defense, but eventually they will face that test.